Thank you, Dean Ryan, and thank you for making HGSE stronger and better. One can have no sweeter legacy than that. I'd like to thank all of the speakers today, and I'd like to say congratulations to alumnus Doug Wood. Thank you for all of your good work. And I would also like to welcome Dean Bridget Terry Long. She will be our dean when the Ed School turns 100 in the year 2020. That is the year of perfect vision. And with perfect eyesight, she will assess the last century, and with perfect vision, she will plan the next century. And now, congratulations to the HGSE graduating class of 2018. Let's give them a hand. You know, I sat in a gathering like this back in 1985. I got married 2 weeks later to Carol S.B. Wilson right here in the front row, electrical engineering at MIT, PhD. And then I traveled up the street to launch my career with a 16-year stay at MIT. My wife and I also lived on campus as what they called then housemasters. And being around students so much, we often found reason to selectively share a truism with students. And that truism was this. That truism is this. Perspective is worth 100 points of IQ. Perspective is worth 100 points of IQ. No matter how paralyzed or confounded you may feel by your academic or social dilemma, if you find a way to just adjust your perspective, you can actually elevate or surge in a unique brilliance and creativity. You can convert your perceived shackles into wings. You can convert your bondage into freedom. Freedom. Berkeley cognitive scientist George Lakoff calls freedom the central idea in American life, the most important idea in American history, and of late, the most contested word in American political discourse. Lakoff thinks we don't know what freedom is anymore. And I think he's right. But since I feel he understates the case, I want to use this time to highlight 3 perspectives on the quest for freedom. And I'd like the graduating class to see this as a memo to you as you set out to heal the world, working beside 32,000 other HGSE alums who are out there already doing the same. I should also add that I have assumed this new role as senior advisor to the president of Harvard in the firm belief that Harvard cannot be Harvard until we get freedom right. That is, until we ensure that everyone in this community has the freedom to flourish in the way that they should. So 3 perspectives on freedom. And I realize as I go through these perspectives that I stand in the way of you and a block party. Oh my. So I'm gonna set you free in a minute. First perspective on freedom. The freedom quest swirls like the spirit or mandate of this moment. I want everybody in the graduating class to feel lucky to enter the world at such a powerful moment in time. To the extent that the universe signals to us what time it is, it has been signaling and whispering and shouting to you all year, to all of us. And it has caused Americans to march. Teachers are marching in West Virginia and in Oklahoma and in Kentucky. Teachers are marching in Colorado and Arizona and elsewhere, holding strikes and walkouts for better pay and better classrooms. Well, they all want to have the freedom to teach without being undermined by basic deficiencies. Students are marching. The Parkland students have already galvanized the nation, and now the Santa Fe, Texas students will join the front of the same march. We're at a point where our students are just looking to be free from violence and the threat of violence. Looking to be free to feel safe and learn at the same time. Women are marching. They're marching for their optimal empowerment and to finally and completely upend the toxic culture that has existed for far too long. They want freedom from the tyranny. I thought there were some women in here. I was going to say, where did all the energy go? The women, they want freedom from the tyranny of silence and the crime of zero accountability around sexual violence and sexual harassment and misogyny. Black folk are still marching too. Of late, just to insist that Black lives matter. It's that simple. It's getting kind of basic. This October, thousands of impatient and angry people will march in D.C. because they feel that 2.5 million addicted and 218 million people dying every day is enough. So they want the freedom from Big Pharma. They want to be free from Big Pharma making billions by infesting the nation with opioids. That's what the march in October is going to be about. I want you to know that this is a freedom moment. And I think everybody in this class, everybody in under this tent should realize that and should embrace the freedom energy as you move into the world. And more than embrace it, I encourage you to find a way to inform it and be informed by it, to inspire it and be inspired by it, to elevate it and be elevated by it. You emerge from HGSE as millions of Americans strive for a new kind of freedom. And I might add that you also emerge from this place poetically bookended by freedom messaging, because 50 years ago, freedom fighter Coretta Scott King spoke in Harvard's commencement season and told graduates to hold high the banner of freedom. That's what she said 50 years ago. And tomorrow, our iconic freedom fighter, Georgia Congressman John Lewis, will be the main afternoon speaker. And you can trust, he is a friend of mine, you can trust that he will message in some way about freedom as well. Don't miss the sign of these times. This is a freedom moment, and you have to live in it and be in it and cause it. Second perspective, the quest for freedom gestates in our educational work and leadership, and it is struggling to be born. Too few of our leaders know that if you are in the education business, you are de facto in the freedom business. They're one and the same thing. I know that roughly a third of the class will now assume leadership roles, so I want to share with you the best leadership advice I have ever received. It came from one of our HBCU leaders who was effectively elevating her institution. And she visited me in my White House HBCU office, and I asked her, "What's your secret?" She said, "There are only two ways to transform an organization. You either have to change the people or you have to change the people. Now, like you, I had heard that before, and I knew that she meant either you make a change in the people that you have, or you make a change by switching from those people to new people. Change the people or change the people. As we discussed this, and I argued that you should be careful to give people every chance and opportunity to grow, she warned, the longer you take to assess which change is best, the more likely it is that you will fail miserably. We debated that, and she gave up, or so I thought. Within a week, she sent me a book in the mail, the title of which summarizes the most important leadership lesson that I have ever received. The book is entitled, "You Can't Send a Duck to Eagle School." I want you to think about that. You cannot send a duck to Eagle School. Translation: some folk are so allergic to change, there is no curriculum, no counseling, no professional development that can convert them into being reliable forces for good in your institution. Hence, you can't send a duck. Let me say it another way. Duck in, duck out. Okay? I hear some snapping over here. Now, why is this critical? It's critical because as leaders, you will need the right people to use educational strategies to tap the genius in your classroom and in your school and in your community. And once you have the right people and the right strategies, you have to establish the right culture. So leaders and educators, it's really all about culture. You got to be focused on culture when you leave here. MIT's Ed Schein said it best. He said the only thing of real importance that leaders do is to create and manage culture. Peter Drucker agreed. He said, it's because culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Whatever new strategies you graduates have, whatever new theories and interventions have excited you here, if you are not first focused on the culture of whatever organization you're going to, if you don't focus on that first, then you are going to fail miserably. That sounds a little harsh. Let me put it another way. You will fall flat on your face. You might as well say when you offer your ideas, would you like these ideas scrambled or poached? Because it's going to be breakfast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's what happens in organizations. The most important, now what kind of culture should you be looking to create? You should create a culture of freedom. Of freedom. So we're back to freedom. The most important idea I was exposed to here at HGSE back in 1984, back in the day, was generated by a Brazilian educator philosopher named Paulo Freire. How many people in here know Paulo Freire? He was brilliant. I just studied liberation theology at the Divinity School, so a logical step at the Ed School was to study liberation pedagogy, or as Freire called it, pedagogy of the oppressed. Freire could have been observing today's world when he said, we need to reset relationships between teacher and student and society. And you know what? When Freire defined education in the context of transformation, he called it the practice of freedom. That's what he called it, the practice of freedom. Freire said schools either have a culture of conformity to the status quo or a culture of transformation and freedom. Graduates, we need you to lead the way in creating more cultures of freedom in this country and in this world. Do that because those are the kind of environments, and they may be the only kind of environments, where people, young and old, can best discover who they are and why they're here. And the people who know who they are and why they're here, they are the freest people in the world. That very truth caused Ralph Ellison to declare, "When I discover who I am, then I'll be free." That's Ralph Ellison. And that brings me to the final perspective on the quest for freedom. The quest for freedom swirls in this moment. It is in the womb of all of our educational work and leadership. And finally, I want you to see that the quest for freedom innately dwells in every human soul, and perhaps at the soul of life itself. I want you all to know that I have lived at the intersection of education and religion my entire life. I was raised by a teacher, mom, and a preacher, dad. That's at the intersection of education and religion, if nothing ever was. It was not always fun. They had me figured out all the time, too. As they saw it, if what was wrong with me wasn't logical, then it had to be theological. I think that's why I attended the ed school and the divinity school here. It seems I'm still trying to find out whether every human dilemma really boils down to a matter of stupidity or sin, which is the way they framed it. Ignorance or corruption. You know, we used to think our parents were so Old Testament, you know, so nuance-free. But now I look around the world and remember they said it's either ignorance or sin. I look about what's going on now. My parents were prophetic. They were prophetic. Oh my God. It's both. It's both about right now. I want to make this last point from that intersection of education and religion. While I was back at MIT in the 80s and 90s, I worked with troubled black boys over in Roxbury. The stolen potential stuck with me, as did my frustration in trying to heal it, trying to recover it. So later, while presiding at Morehouse, we ordered up some pipeline data that clarified the challenge in crystal clear terms. Every year, about 360,000 black boys start ninth grade. And every year, only about 180,000 graduate on time from 12th grade. You probably know that stat, but what you may not know is that only 3% of those ninth graders, 3%, get the kind of grades and scores that will get them in competitive places. 3%. I heard that, I was like, damn, 3%. By the way, damn is in the Bible 15 times. I said that once to my dad, and he sent me to my room with a slap upside the head, whereupon I said, damn, 15 times. But 3%. You see, those data and those experiences in Roxbury led us to the conclusion that we need some unconventional ways to reach our most neglected kids. So here's what I want to lay on your heart and on your heart as I leave. We decided to awaken in them the impulse to be authors of your own freedom. To prove that concept, we began trying this at Morehouse to help ignite the freedom fire and desperation in our students. We leaned on Mark Twain. Mark Twain said this: the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. the day you're born and the day you find out why. And we urged our students to remain open to having your second day. We urged them. We told them that that is the day that you find out why you were born. That is the day that you realize your calling in life. That is the day you are awakened to the purpose you were born knowing. This second day power is inside of you. Hence, education, from Latin, educare, to bring out or to bring forth. And this second day concept is universal too. Buddhists and Hindus call it enlightenment or awakening. Carl Jung and Jungian psychologists call it individuation. James Baldwin said it was the day my dungeon shook and my chains fell off. My grandfather would say, boy, in church, we call that Damascus. My father would say, your second day ain't nothing but your second birth. They both were preachers, by the way. My mother and grandmother would explain it as the reason why the old folks sang, I'm so glad I got my religion in time. When you get your religion, you have your second day. David Brooks wrote about it in the New York Times and referred to it as your agency moment. And Rick Warren made millions with a book about it called The Purpose-Driven Life. And mystic theologian Howard Thurman said it can happen inside of every human being once you hear the sound of the genuine. And by the way, Carol Dweck's growth mindset is pretty much evident on your second day, and Angela Duckworth's grit becomes obvious later that afternoon. Whatever you call it, it is the day when the truth of your life finally connects with the truth of all life. And when that happens, you're as free as you possibly can be. This is so rare. And I want to give you all a sense of desperation about being free. If you've never thought about it before, if you're sitting here thinking whether or not you've had your second day, you think about whether or not you are free. Demographers tell us that in the history of this planet, 108 billion humans have ever been born. That is how many people have had their first day. But of the 7.6 billion people on this earth right now, so few of them have had their second day. So few of us experience the freedom of discovering who we are and why we're here. That can and must change, and educators can and must change it. And we know how to do it. It's all personal. The reason why Martin Luther King attended Morehouse College reading at an 8th grade level at first and was ready for a PhD program by the time he left is because Morehouse College was, at that point, a second-day institution. It was hands-on, it was nurturing, it was in your face in what we were doing, and that produced King and can produce other second-day people in this world. Can we do it? Yes, we can do it. HGSE graduates reach 15 million students every year in America. 15 million. As Toni Morrison said, your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. And that is the truth. And so I close. This convocation message has come to you from the intersection of education and religion. I'm guessing that some of you have heard it as a speech and some of you have heard it as a sermon. And for that, I offer no apology. That is who I am, and that is why I'm here. But as I close, let me hang out at that intersection just a little longer and close with two quick points, one logical and one theological, both about this great institution. You know, logically, the ed school in me The ed school training in me led me to review Harvard's history to discover that in 1643, the 7th year of life for this remarkable institution, the overseers met and decreed that we shall have a college seal, and upon it shall be one word, Latin, veritas, meaning truth. But theologically, the divinity school in me offers this reminder that those Puritans thought that it wasn't merely truth, it was divine truth. So given that, I'm here to feel free to give a second-day reminder about the truth of your life and the truth of all life. Very simply, I suspect that the reason why those original Harvard Puritans decided to centralize veritas is because somewhere in a book held dear, it says, once you know the truth shall set you free. Free. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless HGSE.